All right, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Today, we are going to talk about how to apply Agile outside of development. So, we're going to go right, we're going to go left, we're going to go back, we're going to go forward, we're going to go sideways, but that's probably not the type of Agile that you're thinking about. See, I want everyone to put their finger high in the air, and I want you to look up. We're going to put your finger high in the air, look up, and I want you to slowly turn it clockwise. Slowly turn it clockwise. Now I want you to slowly bring your finger down. Keep on looking up. Keep on looking up. Your finger should be about your chin now. Keep on going clockwise. Should be about your chest now. Okay, now I want you to look down. Are you still going clockwise? No, you're going the opposite. What's changed? What has changed? Your point of view, absolutely. Today we're going to talk about how you can apply Agile outside of development. In order to do that, we have to change our viewpoint in how we are approaching Agile within our everyday lives. My name is Amber Vanderburg, and if you cannot tell from my accent and the fact that I'm speaking English, I am from America. So I actually had the opportunity to become the only American, the only female, and the only blonde academy football coach or soccer coach for the Adidas Game Day Academy and Paris Saint-Germain PSG Academy in Bangalore, India. And as I joined the team, I discovered that we were operating under a very strict command-obey dynamic. See, oftentimes our players would come to the pitch and they would stand in a line, kick a ball, wait for directions. And they would come to our sessions and they would stand in a line, kick a ball, wait for instruction. And they would come to our sessions and they would stand in a line, kick a ball, wait for feedback. While this may be an efficient way to teach a skill, in a game scenario, it was a disaster. Oftentimes, our players within the course of a match would kick the ball perfectly, exactly the way that we taught them, and then, before the play was even over, turn to the sideline to the coach for further direction and feedback. See, they had mastered the task, but they didn't quite understand how it applied to the overall game scenario. While it might be easy to hear this story and think of it as another academy in sports with kids, how often do we go to work, receive a task, and wait for instruction? Whenever we are implementing Agile and leading Agile within our teams, we must go beyond our task and look at the actual goal. So I'm going to share a few stories of how we transformed our academies and how we've transformed several other teams outside of football to go from lines and laps and lectures to one of creativity, collaboration, and true captainship. First, I want to go back into what Agile actually is, going into the history of Agile for just a few moments. See, about 20 years ago, we were going through this process on a macro level. See, our teams were forming. We were coming together, and this is Techman's model of a team, we were coming together, and we were discovering the best way that we could lead projects. We went through a storming phase. We had a lot of questions. And then we went through a norming stage and we said, okay, this is the way that we are going to work. And then we entered into our performing stage where we were performing at our highest level. Now, teams go through this phase all the time, but it's in this final phase, the adjourning stage, that we take the time and we ask, what's working and what isn't? And it's as if about 20 years ago, we had a massive macro level retrospective. And we said, okay, what's working and what isn't? And from this conversation, the Agile Manifesto was born. And so we decided that we were going to put people over processes. We're going to have working software over comprehensive documentation. So we created this Agile Manifesto. But we're only a few minutes into this presentation, and I'm going to commit a bit of Agile heresy and just propose that we entertain the thought of changing one word. I don't know about you, but I have had a bit of time over the last year to be at my house and to be in my neighborhood. And I've noticed that there are some people that seem to be walking the dog, and sometimes the dog seems to be walking the person. And sometimes it appears that the people are owning the processes, and sometimes the processes are owning the people. So what if we took out the word over and we entertained it with the word ownership? This is a slightly different word, but it has a different connotation. So rather than putting people over processes, we're saying no, processes are really important. Instead, we're asking who's in the driver's seat. We are having people owning processes. We're having results owned documentation, customer collaboratively owned contract negotiation, and responding to change of an owned plan. Again, this is just a slight shift, but it can provide a powerful paradigm shift in the way that we are approaching how we implement Agile within our teams, especially outside of development. Going back to my story of our teams that were operating under a commando bay dynamic, we began by being more agile. We began by increasing creativity and collaboration within our team by increasing ownership. And the first thing that we had to do was truly stop. We had to stop commanding the how and start clearly communicating the what and the why. We had to start clearly communicating our what and our why. Let me show you what this looked like. So I'm going to split the team in two. I bet you didn't realize this was going to be an interactive presentation. I'm going to have this side of the room stand up for just a moment. I'm going to have you stand up for just a moment. And you guys can stand up. Don't worry, I'll come back to you in a second. You won't be forgotten. Like every great speaker, I'm going to read directly from the board. So here we go. We are going to follow all 12 steps exactly the way that we are written. I literally just got off a plane a few hours ago from America, and I come with a best practices manual. This is what we're going to follow. We are going to put our feet perfectly in line with our shoulders. We're going to have our toes pointed to the left. We're going to put our shoulders back, our elbows pointed outwards, our hands near our chest in a position as if to perform a push-up. We're going to have open palms, fingertips ready and loose, jazzy fingers, eyebrows lifted high to expose those headlines, our mouth in a perfect O shape. And on the count of 3, we are going to do steps 10, 11, and 12 at the same time. So on the count of 3, we are going to lift up and down on our toes, repeating rapidly. On the count of 3, we're going to bring our hands together, keeping our fingers in perfect sync, which will result in a clapping noise, and then bringing them apart, repeating rapidly. And then at the designated time, being the count of 3, we are going to exert a woo and woohoo sound. I can see the enthusiasm on your face. Don't worry, you're not forgotten. I can see the enthusiasm on your face. Okay, are you ready? No, you're not ready. Your elbows aren't out. There you go. Shoulders back. All right, ready. 1, 2, 3. Woo! 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 Stop. Very good. All right, you guys can have a seat. Thank you so much for indulging in that activity. So, who can tell me, what were you doing? But you did it so well. No, you did great. All right. Following instructions, following the process. Who can tell me why were we doing that? No idea. Because I told them to? Okay, let me ask you this. So based off of how you just did this, I would give you, honestly, I give you a 4 out of 10. If we had to improve on our best practices manual, how could we improve? What part of this could we improve? Why we're doing it, okay? Oh, I could give feedback after each step, yes. I'm sorry, what did you say? Improvement? Environment? Involvement, sorry. Involvement, yes. We could involve them, don't worry. They're not forgotten. Okay. Have a reason, yes. Okay. All right, we have a few different ways that we can improve, all right? Okay, great. You guys stay seated. This side of the room, I told you weren't forgotten. Sorry, they told me I had to stay right here. This side of the room, you're not forgotten. I'm going to have you all stand up. This time, this side of the room did a great job. We are going to show our appreciation for this side of the room by cheering as loudly and as rambunctiously as we can, with the goal of putting a smile on every single one of their faces. We want to show appreciation for how hard they tried at this best practices manual. So we're going to cheer as loudly as we can so that we can interrupt them. No, so we can put a smile on every single one of their faces. Are you ready? Oh, that was so bad. Are you ready? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Very good. You all can have a seat. We couldn't be outdone. Okay. Who can tell me, what were you doing? Encouraging, yes. Pretty good. Yes. You were owning a process, yes. You were cheering, cheering as loudly as you could. Why were we doing that? To support them, yes. To support them. To show our encouragement, to show our appreciation. How did we know if we were successful in our cheering? If they were smiling. Some had the mask and some not, right? So if they were smiling. Yes. So let me ask you, if we have to improve to make them smile more, how could we do that? How can we improve? You can ask them, yeah. Can we get louder? More rambunctious? What's one more idea on how we could improve? Do it all together? Yeah, that's one way we could do it. Absolutely. Absolutely. So here is the reality. Both sides of the room were cheering. You were both doing the exact same thing. But I was able to make one side of the room of highly educated, highly professional adults look like buffoons by over communicating or over commanding the how. We were both doing the same things. And notice that whenever this side was cheering, your focus was on the task. When this side was cheering, your focus was on the goal. This side of the room wasn't looking to that side of the room to see if they had smiles on their face. You were looking at the task. Many of you were also looking at the commander as well. We see this as we're leading agile transformations all the time, right? We're commanding the task. Oh, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this. We're losing sight of the actual goal. Where your focus is will have a massive impact on the effectiveness, on the creativity, on the discussion for improvement, and on the clarity of why. So, I want you to be cognizant of what you are communicating. And notice, I really set this side of the room up for failure, right? I did not give a clear what and why, but even as I was giving my initial instruction, whenever I was giving follow-up, and as I was leading the retrospective, I was pointing specifically towards the task. This side of the room, even with my nonverbals, I was pointing towards the goal. We do this all the time as we are leading agile transformations within our team. So be cognizant of the way that you are initially communicating, how you're setting up the goal and the focus, and be cognizant of where the team is looking and the discussions that they're having as you are moving forward. So, how do we do this in football? It's not a dramatic shift. Notice my communication between these two sides wasn't dramatic. In football, it wasn't dramatic either. So rather than stand in a line, kick a ball, wait for instruction, we provided challenges. So from here, kick the ball to knock down those 3 cones. Because in order to do that, you're going to have to kick with power and precision. And in a game scenario, whenever you pass, whenever you kick, whenever you shoot, you're also going to have to kick with power and precision. From challenges like these, I saw some of the most heated debates I'd ever seen amongst 7-year-olds, trying to decide if the best way to kick the ball was with the infoot or with the laces. In reality, both ways were right. And so our team was able to expand our toolbox of resources to achieve our goal, simply by the way that we were setting up our challenges. And so that had a big impact on our overall performance. So we communicate our what, we communicate our why, and then we allow opportunities for ownership within the how. Now there's 4 specific opportunities for ownership that we can focus on, and that's within our processes, our methods, our projects, and our roles. I'll say that again. There's 4 major opportunities for ownership that you can focus on, and that's within your processes, your methods, your projects, and your roles within your team. And as we provided these opportunities for ownership, we found that the agile tools truly became that. They were an actual toolbox within our team. Here you go. There it is on a picture for you. Now, in order for us to know what tool was going to be the most effective for our team, we had to ask the right questions. This is critical. See, if you want an answer, you're going to find an answer. But if you're not asking the right questions, then that answer might not be the solution that you are seeking. And so whenever we are implementing Agile, we want to begin by asking specifically the right question. And again, this is not a dramatic overhaul, it's a slight shift. I'll give an example. What is 5 plus 5? Arithmetic. Very good. What if I ask the question this way? What two numbers equal 10? 7 and 3, 5 and 5, 9 and 1. Absolutely. See, as we are asking our questions, we should ask them in a very open-ended manner so that we can get a true specific answer so that we can be strategic in the agile tools that we are implementing. I was working with one team a couple months ago, and they said, Amber, we want to use some agile tools within our team because we're being very, we want to be quicker in our communication. Well, so I asked a few follow-up questions. We found that there was some disconnect in the way that we were communicating. So there was so much jargon being used, and so it was actually the messages that were being used. There was some aspects of the team that it was the feedback loops. So it was very, very, very long feedback loops. And so we were looking into systems to increase that. There was another aspect of the team that it was really formal communication. So we implemented a Kanban board, so it was clarity within the team. Now, all of this could be classified as communication within a team. But it wasn't until I asked follow-up questions that we could really find the best agile tool that was going to be the most effective for our team overall. So we have to make sure that we are clarifying our communication moving forward so that we can find the best tools in our toolbox. Now, this sounds really nice, right? Okay, cool, Amber. This is a bunch of theory you're telling me. What's something I can do within my team? Well, I want you to pull out a piece of paper. Don't worry, I won't make you stand up and cheer anymore. But here's what I do want you to do. I want you to grab a piece of paper if you have one. If not, let me know. I think I have some. Oops. I think everyone has some. Oh, yeah, got some. Perfect. Yeah, perfect. All right. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take your piece of paper. This is an activity that I will do whenever I'm working with a team that is just now learning what Agile is. And so rather than talking about all of the tools, we begin with asking, hey, what are you struggling with? Right? What's something that we can improve? We begin by talking about the why and the what. And so I like this activity because it's only 2 minutes long. So we'll get out a piece of paper and turn it landscape-wise like this. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to draw one line horizontally, one line across, and then draw 3 lines vertically. One line across, 3 lines vertically. Here, you can use this piece of paper. Absolutely. Again, this is an activity that I will use whenever I am working with a new team. It's also an activity that I'll use whenever we are trying to prioritize what we need to focus on within our teams. I'm going to give you 20 seconds per box. I want you to think of a specific team that you work within. I want you to draw one way that you can improve, that you seek to improve team performance, all right? Draw one way that you seek to, and this could be within your finance, within marketing. I want you to draw what an improvement action would look like. All right, here we're not looking at the actual tool, we're looking at the outcome, okay? Maybe you have a team that has really bad process times. Maybe there's some miscommunication. Maybe the quality of the product is not good. Maybe it's behind on behind on deadlines, right? So I'm going to give you 20 seconds per box. So you should have, 20 seconds per box to draw a picture of what an improvement action would look like. Okay. I believe I misspoke. You should have, it should look just like this. So, you should have those 6 boxes. Okay. I'm going to give you 20 seconds per box. Whenever I say the word next, you're going to immediately move to the next box. Ready? Questions? Okay. The outcome. The outcome. What does success look like? Okay. Hold on. I'm so not ready. Okay. On your mark, get set, go. So you're going to, I understand none of us are artists. Going to draw, what does an ideal outcome look like? All right, move on to that next box. This is going to be a different improvement outcome. All right, move on to that next box. You're on to that third one. It sounds like Santa Claus is in the next room. All right, you're going to move on to that fourth box. It's not a lot of time. Usually around this time it starts getting really difficult. You have 2 more boxes left. Okay, now you're on to that 5th box. You're almost there. All right, now you go on to that last box. It's not a lot of time. Not a lot of time. Three, 2, 1. Stop. Whew. You can shake out your hand. You need. All right. Give me a fist of 5. Fist being that was the easiest thing ever. 5 being that was the hardest thing ever. Don't ever make me do that again. 0 being that was super easy. I could have come up with 3, 4, 5 more ideas. Or was that 3, 4, 2, 3? Wow, I'm seeing fist 2, 5 on this. Okay, yeah, very good. This is an activity. Sometimes we'll do a full 8 boxes. This is a really great activity for a few different things. First, if you are working with a team and you want to clarify expectations of what ideal outcomes look like, this is a really good way to clarify those goals. So that's fantastic. If I'm working with a team and they only have 1, 2, or 3 areas of continuity in their 8 box or in their 6 boxes, then that's a really good opportunity for us to have a conversation and say, hey, let's clarify what these ideal outcomes look like. If we have a lot of areas of continuity, then that is very affirming. And then we can discuss the action steps moving forward. The second way that I use this box is to work with people who have not been in Agile before. So here we're clarifying, what does the ideal outcome look like? Is there an Agile tool that can help us achieve that outcome? So we're beginning the conversation with outcomes first and then looking at the tools. So I encourage you to look at your 8 box and see, are there Agile tools in the toolbox that could be beneficial to help us achieve these ideal outcomes. Here, we're approaching the conversation slightly differently. But if you're working with somebody that has not been in the agile space, this is a really open way to begin a conversation without bogging down with the task and the jargon. So we're beginning with outcomes first. I want to pause if there's any questions specifically about that activity. That's also a great activity because sometimes if there is a hesitancy about specific jargon or specific approaches where words may fail, pictures is very disarming for many people. So you don't have that hesitancy about language. It's really more, this is what this looks like. So beginning with pictures is really important. Now, I only have a few minutes left. So how have we actually applied this outside of development? So tell you a couple different stories. So I was working with an HR team. This HR team had horrific cycle times. I don't know if you have heard, but there is a bit of a talent shortage in the world right now. And so if you have a cycle time that is 3 months, you're probably not going to find the best talent. So what did we do? We worked with the team. We found out that this HR department was doing double and triple work. They did not have any sort of streamlined process and had no communication amongst the department. And so you had one person that was sending out an offer letter, somebody else was sending out the same offer letter, and people were getting lost in the shuffle. And so we said, what does an ideal outcome look like? And it was clear communication. We can clearly move one person from interviewed to offered to hired to onboarding. And I said, there's an agile tool for this. And so we implemented a Kanban board. We started actually doing daily stand-ups and started implementing these really simple agile tools, beginning with the outcome first. And we were able to reduce cycle time to 3 weeks. So we went from 3 months to 3 weeks. We were working with a nonprofit, and this nonprofit wanted to change the world. They started off with 5 projects, which quickly turned into 12, which quickly turned into 65 ongoing projects. None of them were finished, all at the same time. And so we worked with the nonprofit, said, hey, what does an ideal outcome look like? They said, hey, what we would like is to be able to finish our projects, at least one of our projects, because we have 65 going on at the same time. So we took them, we put them into a backlog, we time boxed each of them, and then we put them into sprints. Now, whenever we did a sprint, we were able to have quicker feedback loops. So at the end of our sprint, we were able to have a retrospective to say, what can we do better? How can we improve for our next project? So whenever we went back and pulled out our next project, we were more equipped to make a difference in a meaningful manner. Again, this is not a complete overhaul. We're not saying a full agile transformation. We're saying, hey, what do we want to do? What's our project? What's the ideal outcome? Is there a tool that will help us get there? So here we're looking at a specific tool. So these were some kids in India that this nonprofit was working with. Last story, not in for-profit, not in nonprofit, just in your everyday life. We were working with, I was going on a holiday with some friends in Thailand. We had to be very agile. We had people from, every single one of these people were from different states. They were from different parts of the United States, and we were all coming together. And we had many missed trains, missed buses. We had to be quickly moving, and we didn't want to wait until the end of 3 weeks. That's how long we were on holiday to improve for our next holiday. And so we started doing stand-ups at the end of at the beginning of each morning. We had a retrospective at the end of each day, and we were able to have a quicker feedback loop so that the next time that we were going on holiday, we could be more efficient. So here, again, it's a simple tool. We said, hey, here's a tool in the toolbox that we can use to do better. So we've gone through a lot of different tools and different ways that we can apply Agile within teams. And all of this reminds me of one final story of whenever I was coaching football. See, I had a young lad, and his name was Achinthia. Now, Achinthia was 6 years old, and he was so excited for his first day of football. See, he came running out onto the field, and he began yelling, "Pass! Pass! Pass!" And I noticed that Achinthia was yelling pass even whenever the other team had the ball. And Achinthia was yelling pass even whenever he was miles away from the action. And Achinthia was yelling pass even whenever he had the ball. So then he was running with the ball, going, pass, pass, pass. And so I looked at him and I said, Achinthia, why are you yelling pass? And he looked at me and he said, Miss Amber, I do not know what it means. I only know it is a football word. But sometimes I hear leaders sound a little bit like my friend Achinthia, yelling, agile, sprints, stand-ups, backlogs, time box, we got this. You're laughing because you know it's true. Because we know that these are really good words that can lead to big goals. But if we're in the wrong position, if we're miles away from the action, or even if we have the ball and we don't know in which direction we're going, then saying these words are not only ineffective, but they're actually detrimental to our overall communication. Eventually, the team is going to tune you out. But if we first take the time to ask meaningful questions to identify the ideal outcomes, beginning with what and why, and providing opportunities for ownership within the how, so that we can effectively use our agile tools to make an impact within our teams, then we'll be in a position to yell pass, to receive the ball, to move forward, and to score really big goals. I want to thank you all so much for having me today, and I think we're going to open it up to some questions.
Yes, thank you very much. So I had only one question on internet, but you answered. So do you have any question on the room? Okay, I have a new question. Is just arriving. Among the 12 agile principles of the manifesto, what are the most appropriate outside of development?
Ooh. So within the agile principles, hello? Okay. Within the agile principles, I think it's more important to know how each one applies individually rather than, oh, these are the top one or two, because they're one of the 12 for a reason. But it's more important to know how each individual principle applies directly to your project leadership. So each one has a specific purpose and reason. I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah.
Okay, another question in the room. Okay.
Or you can, yeah.
Thank you very much for the slot. You told us you were working with an HR team, and I often hear HR teams within our organizations tell us it's a lot about legacy, compliancy processes within HR. So how far did you go with the HR team you accompanied? Because it's really moving for us to understand, to know that it's possible to work on agile stuff with HR teams.
Yes. So we've done work with quite a few different HR, actually a lot of different HR teams. So in that scenario, we were working specifically with recruitment. And we're actually still working with their recruitment team. So we began the conversation by how do we reduce cycle time? Like that was their big problem. Then we went one step further of, okay, how do we improve the onboarding process? How do we, so we are specifically going through that challenge of candidate experience, which is legacy, right? So we began the conversation with HR specifically, or with recruitment specifically, and identified those challenges. And we've done very similar projects within HR in compensation and benefits. Same thing, right? If you have slow cycle times, your employee satisfaction is going to be low, right? So it's all about the what's in it for me, right? So if they have slow cycle times, if they're not making the adjustments to their compensation packages or their benefits packages in a timely manner, then their employee satisfaction goes down, their retention goes down, and that has a big impact. So we started with that conversation and then specifically went into what agile tools were going to help them. So that was an example of using a Kanban board within compensation and benefits. We started doing more sprints, actually. So we created a backlog and then implemented sprints so that we could have faster feedback loops. Because for a couple of the comp teams that we've worked with, they were getting feedback maybe once a year. So they weren't being very quick in the way that they were making adjustments. We have done very similar to comp and benefits within employee relations. So that's that employee satisfaction scores, right? The employees come, they give their satisfaction scores. If they're not seeing any sort of change within a timely manner, then that has a major impact on team morale. So we begin by asking those questions, right? So what are your challenges? And then we very explicitly state what that impact is, right? So, oh, your compensation cycle times are low. That's going to have an impact on employee satisfaction. Whenever we say that, the buy-in is dramatic. And so then we begin building momentum, not by an overhaul, like a full agile transformation. We begin by pulling out one tool and building, having a small win from that, and then we add on more tools. So that's like with the recruitment team. We just started with a Kanban board first, and then moved into stand-ups, and then moved into can we apply this to onboarding, and built momentum, right? So I don't know if that answered your question. Perfect.
Another question in the room? I have no question in internet, just a message to you. Thank you for this tremendous energy and tips. And sorry for my accent. No more question?
Well, thank you.
We have a Roti Express, perhaps next slide,
Oh, yeah.
if you have one. So if you want to give feedback, just go to the URL here and give your feedback. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.